So Pinto 2-litre overhead cam stripped down, just made a start really on the one side, and I'm just lamenting really the fact that at my age now I'm only just beginning to understand how an internal combustion engine works, after being pretty ignorant of it all in the past. And just as I learn, they're all going to get replaced by electric cars. So when I get this, if I ever get this rebuilt in the car back on the road, they'll probably be banned and you won't be allowed to fill them with petrol anymore. You'll have to convert them to electric. Let's hope not, eh? Let's hope that's a long time in the future. Because yeah, fascinating piece of engineering. Take it for granted, don't you, when you turn the ignition key and the thing just starts and you drive off. But oh my god, it's amazing.
It was the last time Titanic fare you well. When the Titanic had got alone, the captain he hollered all aboard. It was the last time Titanic fare you well.
Pre-removal of the carburetor, and this thing, let's check in filming how it's all intact before I strip it all down and be very flummoxed when I'm putting it back together. Got the Haynes of course and everything else and videos, but it's good to have your own record of your own engine, I'm sure. Taking lots of pictures. Yeah, this is just for reference, just in case I have some conundrums later on, and I can refer to this little video. First problem, this heater guard, the bolts sheared immediately. I mean, I was very gentle, and they've been WD'd for a couple of weeks before doing this, and the head's just sheared, so I can probably get those out. I've got the kit, but if I can't, then I'm guessing this piece is not the end of the world to replace. I'm guessing it's a semi-consumable item that can be bought fairly cheaply. I'll have to have a look, but I don't know. I'll try and save it, of course. Yeah, so that's the first problem we've got. Hopefully the last as well. Just removing this water inlet pipe, and it's pretty yucky in there. I guess that's from 20 years of standing water, not water, what is it, cooling system fluid, and it's obviously gone a bit dry or whatever it does, corrodes, and it's a bit yucky in it. But hopefully that can just be washed off, I'm sure. Look at it. Ugh. So, can that be saved? We'll find out. So we're gonna take the sump off, and frankly speaking, I think some of this is obviously road grime and under seal and whatever else, but how much of it is due to an oil leak? It does seem pretty kind of blacker than just under seal and quite shiny and sticky in places, and I've made a bit of a mess there when I tipped the engine. Obviously there's a bit of oil left in it, so we have some cardboard down, but I think a bit might have leaked on the floor. Anyway, yeah, so we're gonna get all these bolts. See how many bolts there are holding the sump on. I'm guessing there'll be a gasket under there. Pull it off, clean it up, inspect it, see if it's had any major dinks in it. It looks pretty battered, doesn't it, and horrible, but if it cleans up good and it's still airtight, watertight, whatever it is, we can reuse it. Well, the sump is off. The sump is off. Came off pretty easy. Got all the grime down there, bottom of the sump. Look. Ugh. Be careful with this, don't want any of the old sump gasket falling into the engine. There we go. Here we go. So under there, where are we? Under there, still some remnants of the underside. See, it's just not all coming off, is it? Broken off there. So the sticky part of it, the black stuff, is only partially coming off. So we'll have to scrape it gently. Actually, I might try and use a plastic scraper. We don't want to damage this metal at all, do we? Otherwise, I guess you could be inviting an oil leak in the future. These pulleys are in a bit of a state. So the first one I pulled off here, and we cleaned it up in the degreaser for a little bit, and then I've put it in for half an hour in the ultrasonic cleaner at 60 degrees. 2 runs of 15 minutes each. Look at that. I haven't got a picture of this particular pulley or whatever it is when I started, but it was obviously black paint but covered in rust, like well, pretty worse than these ones, but you get the picture. And it's come out like that. I mean, I'm going to put it in again for another 15 minutes to get the remainder off, because there's still a bit on there, but not much, is there? It's really come up nice, that. And that's an ultrasonic cleaner doing the job really well. So lid back on, 15 minutes, and then wait for the noise. Just one thing, folks, the tensioner on the timing belt arrangement here, spring tensioner, the adjustment bolt is actually imperial. It's 9/16. The car is a metric 76 Cortina, but the Pinto engine I think came out in possibly 1970 or something like that, so I guess it was still imperial. So the first bolt I found on it that's well, it could just be the attachment, but yeah, just something to bear in mind there, that's an imperial measurement socket. Just gunking the Pinto, get as much dirt off as possible, and then wire brush it, power wash it. I filled up all the inlets, outlets, whatever you want to call them. Don't want to get anything inside. Of course, power washing it will cover this over, either with a plastic bag with a big elastic band around it, or maybe we'll even put the rocker cover back on. Yeah, wire brush it, and then a bit of wipe it all down again with more degreaser, and then a bit of acetone, and then we can paint it. there's something terribly wrong with me. It's Saturday night and I'd rather wire brush my engine block with a Dremel. Always read the labels. I just put acetone in there. Have to completely empty it and start again, having lost a lot of acetone and nothing being cleaned. Right then, I've gunked this engine block and I've power washed it. I then wire brushed it. Got in all the nooks and crannies with a large wheel and followed by a Dremel. After that, what did I do? I Scotch Brighted it, Scotch Bright pad, this thing, with some more degreaser. Then I wiped it down, water with a rag. Then I acetoned it, trying to get it absolutely spotless for painting. You put a white rag on it and wipe it, you're still getting a bit of brown or black grit coming off, or dirt coming off it. So I don't know what to do really, whether to keep cleaning it or just let it dry and paint over. I mean, I'm sure engine blocks get painted that are dirtier than this. I mean, I've done a lot to it and it's looking pretty good, but like I say, there's still grease on it. So I think I'll give it one more go with the cloth and some acetone and keep going so I get it tiny bit more off, and then we will start painting it with the engine paint. Folks, I am so relieved getting the head off, and I was using a Halford's 6 spline socket on a 12 spline bolt, and I didn't realise. I mean, everything was going quite smoothly. I got the outer ones off relatively easily. As I was coming in, it was getting harder and harder. And then the central ones, I was noticing that when I was turning this, it was starting to chew the metal in there. I luckily stopped before the old me would have persevered and rounded the bolt, but I was a bit more reserved and stopped, looked online and realised my error, that it was a 12, not a 6. How I missed that, I don't know, but first time doing it, and I just thought, oh yeah, that looks like the bolt, the socket, and it fitted, and it was a good fit anyway. But it doesn't bed in, as well as this tool that I've just bought today. Went online and there was a guy selling an original Pinto, early Pinto 6 spline, which is, I've had to hammer in there with a plastic hammer, and now it won't come out, but it will come out. It just needs a bit of manoeuvring. Anyway, that is a specific Ford tool, cost me 11 quid, and it worked. I tapped it in gently with this, and it was the same on on that side. That bolt was actually the worst offender. But yeah, with the breaker bar and some very progressive strokes pushing, it came. So massive lesson learned. That could have been a stripped head bolt, which would have meant all sorts of trouble. I mean, one of the remedies for that is you weld a tool on, a sacrificial tool then, and hope that would work. There are ways to get stripped head bolts off, but a stripped head bolt is, I think, one of the worst nightmares, isn't it, of car mechanics. So I have got away with it. Obviously I'll now replace these with new head bolts. I think you can get some kind of stretch ones. These are the non-stretch. There's a 6-spline or different headed stretch bolt, which apparently is better than this more old-fashioned type. Anyway, there we are. I have been so nervous about this for over 24 hours and dreaming out the worst case scenarios, but we're good. We're all good. Okay, cylinder head bolts. Right, cylinder head removal. Got all the bolts out. You saw that in the previous video. Almost a disaster, but we got there. Cylinder head still stuck to the block. I'm only guessing that it's just, 20 years of gunk and old gasket, which is kind of seized the head and the block together. And yeah, just the age of it really. I've recently painted it, which shouldn't make any difference, but it wouldn't help the matter. So I looked online and there was talk of people jamming screwdrivers in between the head and the block. Other people saying never do that, because you'll obviously run the risk of scoring the head surface or the block surface or both, and that would mean reskimming the surface of that. Big job. Other people saying to whack it from the side with a rubber mallet, which I did. Use those two mallets with a block of wood, but I've just painted this, so it was kind of starting to ruin my nice new paint job. I tell you what I tried as well, which probably would have worked if I had persevered, was 2x1 up on there, knocking it from the bottom with a rubber hammer. Never use a metal one. And going round, doing the same across there, somewhere there, can't remember where now. I'm giving that a tap. Anyway, nothing worked. So, what I did, I got a crowbar. Obviously the manifolds are all off and the carburetor, etc. Put a rag in the one hole big enough to take that. And then I put it in like this, I think. Or was it the other way? Anyway, one of those two ways, with the rag just to protect the paintwork. And I think I just pushed up gently, and we got not a crack, just a slight oomph, and it's away. So that's a nice, safe, easy way to get a stuck head off, I would say. Use one of these holes on the side. By all means, tap it first gently with the rubber mallet, with a block of wood, and then do that, and I think you'll have success. Head cam, so this needs to be removed so we can get the springs off, to get the valves out so we can hew them, just clean them. To do that, we need to remove the followers. They are retained by a little spring. You can see that in the light. Nice and gentle. There we are. What I'm doing is I'm putting them all in their individual bags for the ones for each cylinder bolt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got 10, 6, to go along. So everything that comes off each individual valve, or whatever you call the whole setup, spring valve, will have its own bag for putting back together, although they do recommend replacing springs. But yeah, whatever's involved in each separate part. I didn't do it with the bolts. The bolts had a bit of hard time getting these off, so the heads have been mashed a little bit with the tool. Luckily they did all come out, previous video, so they're going to be replaced. Yeah, I don't know how important it is. I'm pretty sure you should kind of put stuff away in order. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to do all this, get the followers off. I think then I can possibly pull this out from here by undoing these two bolts. Could be wrong, I haven't got that far yet. And then I've got a spring compressor tool coming to get these, release the pressure safely on the springs, and then you can pull the valves out, and then we can have a look underneath and we can clean them up. Cleaning up the head, need to get these valves out. To do that I need a valve spring compressor, which I haven't got yet. So I'm just making a start by unclipping these little springs which keep the followers in. These are followers, these things here. I didn't know that before. Then I can remove them, then that exposes the spring. And it also means that the camshaft becomes free, that you can unbolt here, and I think you can then slide it out, because I need this out of the way as well to get the springs out. Once I've done all that, once the springs are off, we can then slide the valves out from underneath. I've wiped a bit with magic sponge around here to get the little bit of rust on the tops. Feels very smooth in there, but the very top there is not so smooth, this last bit, which is where it's obviously the piston was sat for 20 years. Just a little bit of rust on there, and there's a different feel to it. So let's clean that up, get it hoovered, and I think then you put grease around the edge to stop anything falling in, which is what I should have done. But I've only made a quick start now, so I'll hoover that up, clean it out, and then keep going with the magic sponge. If that doesn't work, we'll wire wool it. And then for the tops, I'm not sure how you get this carbon stuff off. I'm guessing a bit of degreaser or brake cleaner, whatever you call it. And I need to do the same with the tops here, very carefully. So you'll have to hoover in here. Look at the horrible stuff in there. It's all the sludge of the old coolant which has dried up over time. So yeah, on the outside it looks tidy, but on the inside, not so much. So for the follower removal on this overhead cam Pinto 2 litre, what I've had to do is loosen this nut here with a 19, and then this nut, this smaller 15, after getting the springs off like I just showed on the previous video. You've basically got to get this nut down as far away from the follower as possible. Once you've loosened this one, the whole thing becomes loose, and oop, bit preemptive there, but basically yeah, that's what happens. Once you've got enough slack on the bolt, and you've turned the nut down a significant way, it'll slide off. So I'll do it now on the next one. As you can see, there's still a lot of thread showing there. So I need to turn this down, keep turning it until it comes up tightish against this one. And then the more you do, the more, see there's not much play there, that's not coming. Whereas that one, as you just saw, it came off quickly because I've already given it plenty of slack. Alright, that's all the followers off. This is loose, taken off the retaining kind of bracket that was there, 2 little bolts. What was that side, was it? No, sorry, it was this side. And now we should just be able to grab it and we can slide it out. Look at that. Well, I said we can slide it out. Which way am I going, guys? I got no idea. Right, what do I do here? What do I do here? Yeah, you just got to be careful, I suppose, and very careful. Let me put the phone down before I damage any of these delicate parts, guys. Okay, we turned it over to clean it all up before the valves are removed so that nothing gets into the delicate chamber inside. A lot of gunk, just wire wooled this and it's come up nice. Literally 10 seconds of cleaning with a wire brush, not a wire brush. Very fine wire wool, just around here. Haven't done this bit yet. Put a bit of gunk on there. I'm probably going to put some brake cleaner on as well to soften up the residue gasket, which is very much stuck to the head. But the glue is obviously 20 years plus old. So yeah, wire wool this bit and then just leave the brake fluid on this bit and then scrape it, I think, with plastic scraper. That shouldn't do any damage. But the main thing is at the moment is to get these clean, get all this clean. So let's carry on. Okay, I'm going to show you how I've got my valve springs off this Pinto cylinder head engine. As you can see, I've done most of them already. I've got 2 left to do. Tools I have used for the job are a valve spring remover tool, which is like £11 on Amazon or eBay, forget which, but they're quite common on there. If you type in valve spring remover or something similar, cylinder head valve spring remover, and I got myself a magnet and a magnetic bowl for the small retainer parts, a mallet for when the valves are stuck. So let's get one valve here already come out. So your valve is sticking up from the bottom up to there. That's the top of the valve head, bottom of the valve, and it's retained by this spring. Obviously, let's go back a little bit. You've taken your camshaft out. I don't think it's possible to do it with the camshaft in. It's gets in the way, the overhead cam, so it's come off quite easily done. Did that in a previous video. So we unscrewed these as well to get these out of the way. Spark plugs are out, everything's out. So here we have, to keep the valve in, there you've got the head part, and inside the spring there's a little rubber washer there. But these 2 little parts here, let's see if I can get these without putting the phone down. Okay, I'll show you what they are now. These little retainers, these are what keeps the spring, holding the spring in. These are little expansion clips which have a thread on them on the inside. They're also tapered, so you've got to make sure you put them on the shortest side nearest the stem of the valve, and the wider part up on the tapered edge of the, there we go. As you can see, it marries up to that, and as the spring contracts down, when you put it back, it prevents this from the spring from being able to come up over this, and it locks everything in place. So how do you get one off? Okay, first things first, we need to put something under the valve. We need to put something under, like a little block of wood, because the head cylinder is recessed and this sits slightly recessed inside. So if you're using the tool to press down here, you're also going to be pressing down the valve, so you're not going to be able to get a grab. You're not going to be exposing enough of the valve to get the retaining clips out. It's hard enough anyway with the tool I've got. This is a fairly cheap tool, so I'm sure you can get better ones which would involve doing this job a little bit easier. And I'm just going to place this under the valve. So I'm going to have to lift the head up a little bit. Okay, we're underneath. Make sure you place it under the right valve. So this one here is this spring here. So I will do that now, and then I will lower the cylinder onto it so that the valve is sitting on the piece of wood, stopping it from popping down when we compress the spring. So I'm just removing this with a 19mm open-sided spanner. Get it out the way. It'll make the job of getting the tool in and grabbing the bottom of the springs a lot easier. The arms of the tool need to drop down to the lowest possible part of the spring so that it can compress as much of the spring as possible so that we can see enough of the valve to grab those retainers. What I've done as well is I've used the reference for the bolts as the reference for for the valve springs. Of course, there's 8 valve springs, there's 10 bolts. So what I've done is I've ignored the last two, 8 and 9. So I've gone from 7 and 10 all the way down to 5 and 4 bags, labelled the bags. So every piece from every valve and spring, all the parts related to each individual one are bagged individually. If we use them again, these parts, then they'll go back into the same spot they were. I don't know how essential that is, but you know, I think it makes sense to keep things as they were. Wish I'd done that with the rest of the car. I have on some things, but not everything. Learn as you go along, I guess. So what are we on here? This is number 4. Bag 4, bag 4, bag 4. We shall find bag 4. There she goes. So bag 4. In there. Yeah, so we're working from clutch side back. Just there we go. So now we've got nice open space. And we'll get the grabber on and pull up the spring. Now some of these tools are like G-clamps, and you get one arm that grabs underneath and compresses down. They're a bit more expensive. This is a bit of a cheaper, nasty version, but it does work. First of all, open the handle so that you drop the springs right down. Get in there on the lowest possible spring. Wear some eye protection, of course. Line it up, and you want to get a really tight contact, so that when you're pressing down, it's hard. You want to really have to squeeze it down so that you get as much exposure of the valve as possible. Let's see how this goes. Remembering that see my valve is moving, which means that my block of wood is not quite in the right place. Let's go and have a look again. So we're gonna go to there. Come on, matey. Obviously there's probably better ways to do this, but as an amateur hobbyist, this has done me well so far. Okay, this time it's a little bit too tight, so we'll slacken it off a little bit. But the valve is not moving anymore, so we know we've got the wood. The wood is in the right place. The spring is now, the arms are tight around the base of the spring. And I can see right down to the retainer. So what I've been using is a little screwdriver like this, tiny one. And you just split the retainers, and I have to kind of coax them out. I think if I had the more expensive tool, I'd get more of a compression on the spring, and they'd probably just use the magnet straight away. But what I'm having to do there's a couple of minutes of tweaking it with this, just to kind of prise them apart really, and then they'll come out. Another thing that can happen when you're doing this is that you find that your little screwdriver, whatever you use, isn't moving the valves, even though the spring's compressed. Not the valves, sorry, the retainers, even though the spring's compressed. And if you find that, it means that the retainers are kind of seized onto the tip of the valve. So the best way to fix that is to take this off and give it a gentle tap with a mallet, very gentle, using a metal one. Tap, 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 and so far I've had 3 seized and they've come off immediately. Well, they come loose immediately, and then you're able to carry on with removal. There we go, we got one coming now. So let's get the magnet. And there we are. There she blows. So we'll put that in the dish. And get the other one out. And then we can pull the spring off. Last thing to do, of course, is to get the actual valve out. It'll just drop out now as we gently tip the engine. And there she is. We'll bag that in the same bag again. So I don't know if you can see there, it's all scored. It's got a bit of carbonization on it, engine grit and dirt from all that combustion over the years. So we'll be cleaning this up in the next video. And for now, there's one more of these to get out. And then we'll go again. Beep, 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 beep. Magnet. Beep, 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 beep. And well, I've heard a lot about Scotch-Brite pads and plastic scrapers. Scotch-Brite apparently can end up ruining your engine because the oil filter can't filter out all those microscopic fibres that come off them, apparently. Even though I'm going to clean all this out, I don't know, it's not worth the risk. I've been putting some brake disc cleaner on here and other degreaser stuff, and it's loosened it a bit, but it hasn't really kind of helped the cause tremendously. So looks like the old-fashioned time-consuming razor blade looks like the safest option. Try not to get anything in these holes. I should really block them up, I guess. Yeah, I might order some, if this takes too long, I might order some specific gasket remover chemical. Don't know the name of it, but it's out there. Because this has been on for so many years, it's kind of bonded on so badly. So this is going to be a long haul job, I think. This is being a pig of a job. The gasket is fused on. This has been about an hour's work. Get it all off using a metal scraper, but be very careful so as not to score the metal, the iron, well, the head and the block. Done the block pretty much. Looking all right now. Yeah, I tried plastic and I tried brake cleaners, try and get it off chemically, and didn't really want to shift at all, so I've had to resort to a metal scraper. Not a chisel, but it's blunter than a chisel. But you still got to be very careful and make sure you've got it flat when you're on, and gently. And I think I've got away with it. There's a couple of scores. Where were they? You can't even see them now. Literally hairline. I think they were actually just on the very last of the gasket remnants, rather than actually marking the top of the block. So yeah, hopefully that'll be enough to place the new gasket on. I guess the only way to find out is to put the engine back together and see if it leaks oil, or ask someone who knows more about it what they think before we do that. Next, last night I cleaned up the cylinder head surface, ready for gasket. I don't think it's actually ready. It feels super smooth to the finger, but I've used the razor blade on it, but I think I'm going to use some acetone or something to try and get. There's a little bit rough there, and then I've got a straight edge to come, and we'll do the usual tests to make sure that it's definitely flat. Right, I've referenced valves using the from the clutch side, the bolt head numbers. Okay, there's only 8, so we ignored 8 and 9. So I've done up to 1 and 2. Up to 1 here now. So I'm going to do 2, which is this one here, which hasn't been done yet. So I'm going to go and find valve 2. I bagged them all with all their respective components numbered. So let's go. So bag 2. And here it is, not looking too bad at all. I've already brass wired with a drill to clean it up, and I'll polish this surface after. Apparently polishing it just gives you that final kind of efficiency when it's back in, so that the air can glide over the surface slightly better. Like I say, it's all clean, but you have to then, the final touch is to hone with a special kind of putty that you put on the surface here and the surface there, and you use a little stick to rub it in, and I'll show you now. So we've got a coarse, and after that, if it's still a little bit rough, you can use a fine as well. I'm using coarse and fine on every single one because it's an old engine. So excuse the crude kind of tweezers, I couldn't find anything else to put it on. I could use a screwdriver, I suppose, or something. Anyway, so you just dab some on all the way, nearly all the way around. There we go. Maybe a little bit more in there. What is this stuff called? Holt's coarse grade honing putty, I guess. Then you've got this, and you just literally stick it on. It's like a suction. Put it in, and then wait for the sound to change. Can you hear it getting lighter? Adjusting the position so you're not rubbing in the same place the whole time. There we go. This probably doesn't need a fine, because I can feel that it's bedded in really nicely. There we go. What it's doing is it's just making sure that the valve can seat right up in against the cylinder there, so there's no gaps, no chance for anything to escape, and the engine is therefore at its most efficient. Right, I'm going to clean this off, and then we'll put some fine putty on, do the same thing again, and I'll take it over to the polisher just to polish up this. Clean it up again, spray it with WD-40, bag it, because this isn't going to go back together for a little while, so to avoid any corrosion whilst in storage, WD on that, WD on this, and then yeah, well, I'll clean this up again like I said before, and when I'm happy with it, we'll just WD it all because it's iron, bag it up, and then it can wait to be put back on the block. Look at that. Does that need a fine putty on it? That probably doesn't, but that does. I think this is a little bit more scuffed and worn. Let's do it. So another crude instrument. Sorry about this. I was clutching at straws. Well, not straws, whatever I could find very quickly in the toolbox. It's a plastic scraper, which is a good applicator, does the job. Here we go. So, hit my stick back, and same as last time. Where were we here? Here we go. That's got it. Okay, that's good. All right. Clean that off. Oh, that's looking beautiful. Do the same. You don't want to leave any of that stuff on. I mean, we'll give it a final cleanup anyway. And this one as well. I've done this one and I've left all the putty on there. Make sure you've got a clean rag. Don't use the same bit twice. This one's not coming up that nice. The last few did. The last few were perfect, but this one's still pretty black. It's a nice finish on it, but it's not got the colour. What I might do is put I could put a coarser rouge on, maybe. Or I could just clean this up a bit first. Let's clean this up. Well, there you go. All it was that was a bit dirty. It's still quite black now, so I just cleaned it up with a fork in there, got all the crap out of it, and then put a bit more polish on, and voila! The second time round, it's come up a lot better. I wouldn't say it's bang on, but you don't need polishing this too much, otherwise, you know, you can't afford to lose any of this. Any of the thickness of this by heavy duty polishing. You know, with a coarser wheel might actually get rid of the surface of the lacquer or something, and then of course you've got a loose valve in the car, so that'll do. That's pretty much bang on. Looking at right up close, not perfect, but it's a valve inside an engine. Come on. Bit of WD and into a bag. Till next time. Well, I've just blasted the sump with this, the poly disc, which took about 3-4 minutes, I would say. 3 or 4 minutes to go from a gunky black oily mess. I did clean it up a little bit before. Last night, I just used a scraper, just used a bit of degreaser, washed it in there a little bit, and then a bit of a scraper just to get the worst of it off around here. A lot of underseal and stuff, road debris, but yeah, for the rest of it, that poly disc just demolished what was left. The black paint, of course I haven't got everything off with it, but it's, you know, that's 95% done in it. And then I'll just get the elbow grease out now, sandpaper the rest, and then that can be primed. I think I'm going to put Hammerite Smooth on it, it's been what I use for the petrol tank. Don't know if there's anything else out there that could work. Don't think I need the engine paint on a sump, do I? It's not going to get as hot as, I don't think anyway, it's not going to get as hot as the head or the block. So yeah, that's where we're at with the sump. Let's turn it over, clean the inside even. It's sadder than I am. But that was okay, but down here, obviously this is the where all the gunk goes. There's still a bit in there now, but I'll get that out. But yeah, degreased this last night, and Scotch-Brite, that's all that is. But yeah, just really to get out the gunk in there so that when it's put back on, the nice fresh oil isn't mixing with anything untoward.
I have to read this out. I have to get a little shout out to Dave, who's tweeted me. He is an absolutely incredible human being. He is at the Ukrainian border right now, and he's handing out teddies and soft toys to all the children that have actually lost theirs. He also offers the only safe...
These sump bolts come up a right treat compared to some other bolts, different parts of the car. I'm guessing because they're so covered in, or surrounded by oil and oil vapours, and caked in it actually, you know, on the underside, that it's actually preserved them. I mean, all I've done is I bathed them in here for a couple of days, which is the rust solution, anti-rust solution. Put them on the mat, wrapped the towel around them with a bit of brake cleaner, just to kind of get off the dregs. Shook them all around, squashed them all together, wrapped this in a ball, opened it out, and then cleaned it all up again, wiped them, and then I put some WD on, and now they're ready to be bagged. And when we're ready to put the sump back on here, I think we can reuse them all. Yeah, these are looking fine. Good job.